how we do our photography or how we do our Matterport or how we do our circle calls or how we do group open houses, all that's a system. And so
one of the things in your bio, right? Like you do a lot of stuff, and I think you do a lot of stuff really well. So you've obviously been lending, and I know you have a property management company. You do a lot of flips, you do some lending, you do a lot of retail, residential real estate stuff,
yeah.
which if you did that all on your own, like I've been in your shoes, right? Like where it's impossible to do all that stuff without having a good system and process. And I think that's where it goes back to, I think you're very intentional about what you do. So you're intentional about how you're going to make it work, right? So what I want to do is let's talk about that in general, and then maybe we can talk about some specifics, right? To kind of like illustrate it. So maybe talk about like at first that mindset of like how you get it set up so that it can be a little bit more automated. And then what I've really liked learning from you is your retail real estate business side of it, as well as your property management side of it, right? Because those are very complex. And if you're doing those all on your own, they're going to take just a ton of time, right? So talk a little bit about that.
Man, I could talk for 2 hours on just what you just asked me. So
well, let's dive into it, because I think that's one of your skill sets that's super high, right? Like that I've told you over and over, it's really hard for me to be able to do that, and so you do it really well, and so I think it's super valuable.
Well, I think and I appreciate that, but I think, it takes, Wall Street Journal says it takes, 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. And real estate is so vast. Like you could do so many different things and just suck at all of them. And so I think you got to pull one arrow out of your quiver at a time. Get really good at buyers before you move to listings, and get really good at short sales before you go to foreclosure auction, and get really good at managing your own property before you take on some other properties. And so, I feel relatively young, but yeah, I am, almost at year 20, and I've spent the time, right? And so what you've got to do is what I've done is I've created playbooks, right? At first it's just a checklist. Hey, do this, then this, then this, and this. And now I've created playbooks, and some of them have videos. And so when a staff member says, well, how do I comp? And I don't have to spend, 20 minutes showing them how to do it. I'm like, did you watch video 1? Did you watch video 2? Did you watch video 3? Did you follow the playbook to a T? On an open house, like we spend so much time getting these flips right. We have a prescribed process how to do the open house down to the day we list, the days we do price adjustments, how we do our photography or how we do our Matterport or how we do our circle calls or how we do group open houses. All that's a system. And so I think anytime you're trying to be an investor, you don't want it to all be up here. Like it's got to get on paper. It's got to get on a Google spreadsheet. You have to have prescribed systems so that you can have a standard. If you've got a system, you can have a standard, but you can't have a standard without a system.
Right.
And so I think, when you talk about property management, I started managing my own, and I figured out, look, I can do this. I think everybody should manage their own. And then I stopped saying that because there's a lot of nuances to it. And then I hired a first assistant to manage it, right? And then I'd coach them. They'd do it, put their own twist on it, and then we'd hire another person. And then clients would, work into it, buy a property and want us to manage it. And so we started taking on more and more. And so now I leverage those abilities so that I don't have to spend that, I don't know what it is, $20, $30 an hour task when you want to just own it and run it, but make sure you can control the outcomes.
Right.
So, there's technology and software, but you've got to have those standards.
That's awesome.